playing online blackjack and want to try upping your odds? Well, here's a tip. Cheat cards tell you statistics for whether you hit or stand on every move. If you're into stats, this could be your ticket to winning. And it is totally legal. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple of
15.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Hey everybody, welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Adam Kaufman in for Craig Mish one more time this week. If you've missed Craig, don't worry, he'll be back with you next week. But we have got a loaded show coming up for you over the next 60 minutes. And I wish I could tell you here in this opening segment we were starting off with some good news, but honestly, it's bad news after bad news and more bad news before we still do get to the actual sports of it all. Let's begin out in California, West Coast. Of course, California Attorney General Rob Bonta plans to ban daily fantasy sports. That decision is expected to be announced by July 3rd, less than a week away. Bonta's office started looking into the legality of DFS back in October of 2023. The Coalition for Fantasy Sports represents pick'em-style DFS operators, Underdog, Prize Picks, to name a couple, is arguing the legality of fantasy sports should be determined by voters, not, obviously, the AG of the state. We will explore this topic a whole lot more later with Sam McQuillan from Legal Sports Report when he joins us. Now, off the field, more issues in the NFL. Former Ravens 7-time Pro Bowl kicker Justin Tucker suspended 10 games for violating the league's personal conduct policy. Tucker has been accused of sexual misconduct by 16 massage therapists from 8 high-end spas and wellness centers in the Baltimore area. All of the alleged incidents taking place between 2012 and 2016. First handful of years in the league for Tucker. The Ravens released Tucker, you may remember, back in May. Despite the kicker's denials of any wrongdoing, he had 3 years left on his contract. The suspension will take effect in late August. Roster cutdown day, the 26th specifically. He will be eligible for reinstatement in mid-November after that 10-game ban. He is able to try out and sign for another team in the interim, or even participate in training camp and preseason action if he is signed even before that late August date. But something to monitor going forward for, obviously, one of the league's most accurate kickers ever, but a guy who has trailed off a little bit over the last couple of years. Something clearly more substantial that he is dealing with off the field right now, though. Well, with a similar theme, we go to baseball, and Wander Franco, formerly of the Rays, he has been found guilty of sexual assault of a minor in the Dominican Republic. Franco received a 2-year prison sentence on Thursday after having a sexual relationship with a 14-year-old when he was 21. The mother of the victim was convicted of sexually trafficking her daughter and sentenced to 10 years in prison. There were a whole lot more involved there, including receiving money from Franco, laundering money as well. And so, again, a 10-year sentence for the mother of the victim. Franco, 2 years. But more notable than that, as far as the baseball end of things for Franco, is that this conviction is going to make it very difficult for him to receive a work visa in the U.S. So in all likelihood, his time in Major League Baseball and with Tampa is over. But obviously, again, something to monitor going forward. More bad news as recently as this morning as we go over to the NBA. The Toronto Raptors have fired Vice Chairman and President Masai Ujiri this morning. Now, Ujiri was entering the final year of his contract. I think we can all agree the timing of this is downright insane. Right at the conclusion of the two-day NBA draft over the last couple of days, only days away from the start of free agency as well. Raptors 30-52 last year, missed the playoffs for a third straight season. The former NBA Executive of the Year and champion had been with the Raptors as GM going back to 2013. Quite a while, obviously, a dozen years, but new ownership of the Raptors there in Toronto. Rodgers, and the belief is that there were a whole bunch of dealings behind the scenes in terms of arguments, disagreements that led to this decision here first thing this morning. One more brighter news. If you like hockey, you're going to get more meaningful hockey on the way. NHL plans to expand its season from 82 games to 84. Now, this is interesting. It's part of a new CBA, collective bargaining agreement, that we're going to see today ahead of the NHL draft. Technically a memorandum of understanding for a 4-year extension on the current deal. The deal includes a shortened preseason to only 4 games, a maximum of 2 games in the preseason for vets of at least 100 games played in the NHL. There are new details as part of this, with revenue splits, length of contracts for both free agents, restricted and unrestricted. The dress code that we have seen in terms of when players enter and leave games, that is going to be gone. So no longer are we going to see players required to show up in suits. Obviously, we know dress codes kind of a thing in the past across sports time, but the NHL had been hanging on. This would all begin, by the way, with the start of the 2026-27 season. So it is about a year out, but we can get everything agreed upon, ratified very, very quickly here in the NHL. So fun news there. Going back to baseball, how about we talk about games, sports, things happening on the field? The Braves and Mets. So they played once again, 4th game of their series. Mets beat the Braves to split the set. It was a 4-0 win for struggling New York that did put together, obviously, a couple of wins in this series. Pardon me. Griffin Canning feared to have an Achilles injury. I don't know what it is with these Achilles injuries across sports right now. We've seen it so prevalently in the NBA of late. But Carlos Mendoza, the manager of the Mets, happy to see his team getting back on track.
Continue to stay on the fight. The one thing that I keep saying is, as long as we're creating traffic and creating opportunities, we're going to come through, and we saw it today. We got second and third. We didn't, I don't think we scored that inning. And then first and third, finally TT with a sac fly. But then Pete was able to come through. There a lot of good at-bats, especially with 2 outs. Again, I thought overall we won some counts that put ourselves in a better position. Couple of blocks, 3-2 by Beatty, 3-1 by Jeff. But overall, as long as we're creating traffic, we're going to have a lot of opportunities with runners in scoring position, and we got a lot of good hitters. So they'll come up big for us.
So the Mets right now, again, inching themselves back to where they were atop the NL East. As it sits right now, they are a half game in front of the Philadelphia Phillies despite the recent struggles. Now, I hope no one took the over in the Colorado game against the Dodgers. A lot of people were on the over 12.5, over on the Dodgers team total 7.5. Low-scoring win out of L.A., 3-1 there in Colorado. Clayton Kershaw, the veteran and World Series champion, 5 strikeouts. He is only 3 away from 3,000.
So you're now just 3 strikeouts away from 3,000. You have a chance to do it at home. How special would that be for you?
Yeah, it would be. It would be very special. It would be.
Were you kind of, how mindful of you were that just of the total today while you were pitching?
Yeah, I mean, I knew I had 8 to go. Freddie's really good at reminding me every day. So, and 8 in Colorado's never going to be easy to do. So, but pitched well, got through 6, and a chance to maybe strike out 3 at home would be really cool.
How have you felt just overall about how we kind of look, how your stuff's kind of played at this point?
Kind of neutral. I think there's good days and bad days, good pitches and bad pitches. So, not as consistent, not as perfect as I would want, but the results, have been okay. And at the end of the day, we're winning games that I've been on the mound. So I'm thankful for that, and just a product of being on a great team.
So something you might view as a pitcher's duel happening there in Colorado. We got a pitcher's duel once again between the Phillies and the Astros. 3 incredibly low-scoring games. The Phillies were shut out the first 2 games of the series. We were talking about the rubber game yesterday, or pardon me, the final game, trying to salvage that series yesterday. It was the Phillies, they can't possibly get shut out again, can they? And they weren't. They lost 2-1. They scored 1 run. Hunter Brown against Christopher Sanchez, both dazzled. Brown 7 scoreless innings. Again, the 2-1 win out of Houston. Rays and Royals. The Rays only a half game behind the Yankees for the top spot in the American League East after a 4-0 shutout of the Royals yesterday. So pretty good pitching, whole lot of unders across baseball yesterday. Had a lot of day baseball. Everything is under the lights tonight, late night. What can we expect? We'll get into baseball a little bit more later with Danny Burke. But when we come back, Brandon Anderson will join us. We will do more on the NBA. As we know, it's just we enter every year, and it's, is this the Ravens' time? Is this Lamar Jackson's turn? Can they get past the Chiefs and all of these other stalwarts of the AFC? But it's always really about Kansas City when we're talking Baltimore.
This potentially, Adam, as I send it back to you, potentially is a game changer in that you get a very talented quarter at a discount price.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
We are seeing unbelievable temperature surges over the past couple of days. So I wanted to ask you this question to let the people know, how do we account for that in our handicapping? 2 good pitchers on the mound, but you look at a place like Wrigley Field, let's just say, 20-mile-an-hour winds blowing out, 90-plus degree temperatures. Is it almost like you say to yourself, you just have to fade the environment and not worry about the pitches, because if we're hitting fly balls, they're going yard?
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
It was the first time, I think, in Dodgers history that the ballpark was full in the first inning. Everybody was there to see Shohei Ohtani throw his first pitch as a Dodger, and I had mixed emotions about this for a few reasons. Number one, it was a reminder of, wow, this is so crazy, right? You're watching him hit 98, 99, even 100 on the radar gun going, this guy's not human. Nobody should be able to be this good of a hitter and this good of a pitcher.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
I can't even believe I'm saying pitcher's battle and using the words Patrick Corbin. But can I tell you, Scott, he's a different guy. He's a totally different guy with the Rangers than we've seen.
I say this all the time. Don't worry about the first 5 innings. Don't even watch the first 5 innings in Texas Ranger games. Because for whatever reason, there's a ton of runs scored in the first 5, and then it just stops. It just stops.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
All right, we are back here on NewsWire on SportsGrid. Smarter to be on SportsGrid. Hopefully you agree, and that we are proving that over the next little bit here, that we've got you a bevy of guests on the way. And let's get back to basketball. Talk about what's going on there in Toronto with this big news this morning that Masai Ujiri is out as GM of the Raptors. Brandon Anderson is with us from Action Network. You can get him on Twitter at Wheaton Brando. And look, I think we can agree. I don't know if you think this is good, this is bad for the Raptors. Obviously they have struggled as of late over the last few seasons, but the timing is shocking. On the heels of the draft and then a couple days in advance of the start of free agency. What is going on?
Really, really stunning timing. Masai Ujiri is a guy that is very well known, very well beloved, a guy that brought a championship to Canada. He's architected this team and built them. They brought Kawhi Leonard to the Raptors. And to be fair, that's been 6 years now. What have you done for me lately? Well, what you've done is you got a bunch of like weird, long guys that don't totally fit together, and the Raptors haven't done a whole lot. So maybe it just was time, not me, it's you sort of situation. Maybe they were both ready to move forward a little bit, but why now? Why today after the draft? We saw a video of number 9 pick Colin Murray Boyles gets drafted and drops an F-bomb on camera. I like to believe that's like a, wow, I'm going to the NBA, this is amazing. But, we've seen that before. The guys are like, I don't want to go to this team. So I don't know if that played in right before free agency. This has been a team rumored as a Kevin Durant destination. This has been a team rumored for Giannis for years. Toronto Internet City would make a lot of sense for Giannis. Maybe this is, to me, a play to get him out because Giannis is interested, but maybe not with him. I don't know. The timing is very weird, and it's definitely one of those that makes you think, okay, why? What else is happening now?
Well, since you brought up Giannis, and sorry, Frank, I'm going off rundown here for a sec. We saw the report out of Shams Charania that Giannis is, I don't remember exactly how it was worded, but monitoring basically what is happening at the start of free agency and keeping an eye. I mean, look, this situation in Milwaukee is not a great one. I can't imagine he loves playing for Doc Rivers. That has not been successful, despite Giannis clearly wanting the coaching change in the first place. Now Damian Lillard, we don't necessarily expect to see him next year. The East is wide open, but Giannis is this. He's a champion. He is an MVP, but there's only so much that he can do by himself, and we've seen that in recent years when he hasn't even been by himself. So, do you believe that come opening night, Giannis is still a buck?
Man, ask me today, yesterday, and tomorrow, you get a different answer each time. Here's what Giannis is monitoring. Giannis is monitoring my best teammate, Dame Lillard, is out with an Achilles, probably not playing this year. The Celtics are down for the count with Tatum and trading all the guys. The Pacers are down for the count because Halliburton got injured. The East is wide open, and here's what he's monitoring, Adam. If I get Brandon and Adam on my team with me, Giannis Antetokounmpo, I can get 2 other NBA players, and we can win the East. I just need 2 guys, Brandon and Adam, and we'll win the East. That's what I'm monitoring. Right now, he has no guys. He has none. He has Kyle Kuzma, who's negative guys. We could be better than Kyle Kuzma on the basketball court. So he needs some people in the East on some team, and it's not Milwaukee right now, and they don't really have a way to make moves. I don't know, like every time that this guy talks, it's like, okay, he's actually staying now. Nope, no, maybe he wants out. The East is so open, and it's just Giannis with anybody could be the favorite overnight. So it's hard to believe. Here's what I think. I don't think that he will be there on opening day next year. It wouldn't surprise me if he's there to start the year but not finish the season.
So you alluded to Colin Murray Boyles. Yeah, maybe he didn't want to go to Toronto. And who knows? This is just like speculation, right? All we can do is speculate as of right now, the situation with Ace Bailey in Utah, because, he essentially was tanking his own draft stock, wanting to go to either Brooklyn or Washington, a better situation, obviously. And there were teams, he refused to work out with anybody. And there were, according to, Gavoni over on ESPN, his agent said that there was one specific team, didn't name the team, that he said, look, I will hold out. I will not report if you draft me. And now, because he didn't go with new teammate Walter Clayton Jr. right off the bat after the draft to Utah and is showing up later, apparently, word is Monday, but we'll see if he is in Salt Lake City or the Jazz. That team, is this a holdout situation for the former Rutgers star? What do you make of all of this and Ace Bailey, who is not, by the way, Cooper Flagg? I just want to throw that out there. He's not of that level of talent.
Well, you have a hard time convincing Ace of that. The man has a strong opinion of his own talent. We love that. We love a guy who thinks that he's the best player on the team. Half the NBA probably thinks they're the best player on the team. That's why they're in the NBA. I think Ace Bailey, to me, was the right home run swing for Utah to take. They definitely want to get some high talent in here, and I thought in a talent kind of bereft of home run swings outside the top 2, that's a guy that you hoped could be that. Here's what's interesting. He didn't want to play for one of the top 5 teams. We know that. Well, we know that's probably not Dallas at 1 and not San Antonio at 2. We already knew who they were taking. So it's not even a 1 in 5. It's 1 in 3, really. So it's the odds are increasing that Utah was maybe not the place to go. He wanted to stay on the East Coast, reportedly. He wanted to be around people that he trusted. Let's just imagine Utah crowds, maybe not necessarily the scene he was going for. So, yeah, maybe a little trouble in paradise, but we haven't seen this for a while. Stevie Franchise, remember a little standoff back in the day? This is fun drama for the rest of us.
Looking at your Twitter, you were someone who was not overly impressed by the Nets draft. They had 5 first-round picks, used all of them, the first time that we have ever seen that in NBA draft history. It was, Igor Demin at the top, who is an elite passer, doesn't do a whole lot else well. They could have drafted basically a starting 5, could have gone position by position. Instead, it was 4 guards out of the 5, 3 point guards. What are the Nets doing?
I don't know what they're doing. This is one of the more baffling hauls I have seen in the draft. They basically take 4 pass first, as far as I'm concerned, pass only players. I'm a little intrigued by Danny Wolf, the 5th guy they took. He's the only guy that I even have in my top 25 in the rankings. This was a shocking group of players, especially all together. We're getting passing at all costs. That's it. That's who we are.
Brandon Anderson, again, from Action Network. Get him on Twitter, @Wheat. So, Brandon, always enjoyed the time, man. We'll have you on again real soon. NBA offseason heating up. As we know, it's just we enter every year and it's, is this the Ravens' time? Is this Lamar Jackson's turn? Can they get past the Chiefs and all of these other, stalwarts of the AFC? But it's always really about Kansas City when we're talking Baltimore.
This potentially, Adam, as I send it back to you, potentially is a game changer in that you get a very talented quarter at a discount price.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
We are seeing unbelievable temperature surges over the past couple of days. So I wanted to ask you this question to let the people know, how do we account for that in our handicapping? 2 good pitchers on the mound, but you look at a place like Wrigley Field, let's just say, 20-mile-an-hour winds blowing out, 90-plus degree temperatures. Is it almost like you say to yourself, you just have to fade the environment and not worry about the pitchers, because if we're hitting fly balls, they're going yard?
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Was the first time, I think, in Dodgers history that the ballpark was full in the first inning. Everybody was there to see Shohei Ohtani throw his first pitch as a Dodger, and I had mixed emotions about this for a few reasons. Number one, it was a reminder of, wow, this is so crazy, right? You're watching him hit 98, 99, even 100 on the radar gun going, this guy's not human. Nobody should be able to be this good of a hitter and this good of a pitcher.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
I can't even believe I'm saying pitcher's battle and using the words Patrick Corbin. But can I tell you, Scott, he's a different guy. He's a totally different guy with the Rangers than we've seen.
I say this all the time. Don't worry about the first 5 innings. Don't even watch the first 5 innings in Texas Ranger games. Because for whatever reason, there's a ton of runs scored in the first 5, and then it just stops. It just stops.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Our thanks once again to Brandon Anderson of the Action Network for joining us here on NewsWire. We go from one winter sport to another. Talk a little hockey with a host and analyst here on the grid who you see all the time, Joe Madden, on Twitter @JoeMaddenSports. Joe, good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you today, Adam, as well. And hockey, is it a winter sport anymore when we're finishing in June? Kind of question
Well,
that.
look, they're all year round at this point, aren't they? That's the reality. It's why here on the brink of July, we're sitting here talking about the NHL between player movement, where and when Brad Marchand is still celebrating his latest championship with the Florida Panthers. But the big news that we expect to hear more about today is the NHL extending, I guess for lack of a better way of putting it, albeit with a whole bunch of new details, the current collective bargaining agreement, we are going to see the season change as we know it. We're going to jump from 82 games to 84, according to the latest reports. You can see some details there on your screen. Dress code's going to be gone. New revenue split details, length of contract details, preseason shortened, all of it. What do you think?
I hate it. I absolutely hate it, Adam. I think we're going to get such a watered down product. You look at taking this game. Hockey is such a physical game. This isn't like baseball out there. And I know they play way more games in baseball, but you look at hockey, the physicality of these players out there on the ice. And at 82 games, we were already getting a season in which, for some teams, the last couple weeks didn't matter at all. And they were just rotating their players out, having a lot of their older veterans be able to take that time off. And I think what we've done here, extending it to 84 games, now I think the players didn't really have a backlash here because they are going to get more money, but the product for the fans is going to be completely watered down. I think we're going to see load management in the NHL like we do in the NBA. I don't think it will be as drastic as the NBA where we're going to say, okay, this guy's just sitting tonight, but it will be like he's out for a lower body injury. Well, that lower body injury, instead of a couple games, will turn into 3 or 4. So I don't love it, Adam. I think it's a bad move for the NHL. I also don't love the dress code going. I know it's outdated, but there's something about the dress code in the NHL that just makes it a little bit different.
Yeah, look, I mean, a suit is always going to look more professional than rolling in whatever you want to wear. But again, like you said, it's sort of become a thing in the past across sports in general. What about the length of contract element? The, teams re-signing their own players, it's dropping down to 7 years from, I believe it was 8, free agents on the open market from 7 down to 6. Basically, it's still a good length of contract. It's not like you in the NBA where you have the maximum 5-year deal, that kind of thing. But by the same token, does it feel like the NHL is pushing its way, a la the NBA, toward more parity, more movement around the league, stars or players in general changing teams more frequently versus, the era that we grew up in, right, where it wasn't completely unusual for a guy to spend his entire career in one place?
Well, absolutely. And we're not going to have the Sidney Crosbys anymore that want to stay in one team and with one franchise. We are going to have players wanting to move a lot more. And with this, this does give them the ability to. And I think those players should have that ability. I do like this move for them. For the fans, you're not going to get those long-term players that just want to stay with their teams there. But I do think for the player side of things, it is a better move. You're going to get players that are getting paid what they deserve out there instead of being stuck into these longer contracts. And we're not talking about, the top guys like the Connor McDavids. And yes, this will help those top guys as well. But we're talking about, those third, fourth linemen coming out there. They're not the big names and they will get more money than they would with the other deals, I do believe. And they'll have that flexibility to be traded and moved more often, and that will be a bonus for them, Adam.
We have the draft in front of us, starts tonight, obviously, but as we expect, free agency moves are going to come, more trades are going to be made. We've already seen some, including, and we'll show you some on the screen here of what we've seen so far, but the Edmonton Oilers, who were obviously finalists in the Stanley Cup final for the second consecutive year. Can't be easy to be that group right now, but Evander Kane is going to be off chasing a championship elsewhere as he moves to the Canucks in what was, a salary dump, a cap clearing move there on the part of the Oilers. But what do you think of some of the recent moves in general?
Yeah, not surprised with Evander Kane. And I am actually surprised Vancouver wanted him because he does bring a lot of drama wherever he goes. But I do think the biggest impact here is Utah. Utah being able to pick up JJ Peterka here. He's going to be so strong for them. He's one of the most underrated forwards out there in the league. And I love this move for them. Now, the Sabres did get back a couple of playmakers, but I don't think they got enough for JJ Peterka. So definitely look for Utah this season for those goals to really step up, Adam.
As it exists right now, and it'll change by the time opening night gets here with puck drop, but the Carolina Hurricanes, Stanley Cup favorites on FanDuel at 7-1, followed closely by the two-time defending champion Panthers, plus 750. You are even with those Oilers. Again, Joe Madden, host and analyst here on SportsGrid. Get her on Twitter at Joe Madden Sports. Thank you. as we know, it's just we enter every year and it's, is this the Ravens' time? Is this Lamar Jackson's turn? Can they get past the Chiefs and all of these other, stalwarts of the AFC? But it's always really about Kansas City when we're talking Baltimore.
This potentially, Adam, as I send it back to you, potentially is a game changer in that you get a very talented quarter at a discount price.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Oklahoma City now becomes one of 4 NBA teams ever, one of 3 NBA champs ever, to win at least 84 total regular season and postseason games.
It's just the beginning, Ben, and you just look at a team with, these guys at such a young age, and, Chet's got a team option, Ismail Dieng has a team option, Jalen Williams team option, Keyshawn Wallace team option. Hey, they're all coming back.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We are seeing unbelievable temperature surges over the past couple days. So I wanted to ask you this question to let the people know, how do we account for that in our handicapping? 2 good pitchers on the mound, but you look at a place like Wrigley Field, let's just say, 20-mile-an-hour winds blowing out, 90-plus degree temperatures. Is it almost like you say to yourself, you just have to fade the environment and not worry about the pitchers, because if we're hitting fly balls, they're going yard?
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
It was the first time, I think, in Dodgers history that the ballpark was full in the first inning. Everybody was there to see Shohei Ohtani throw his first pitch as a Dodger, and I had mixed emotions about this for a few reasons. Number one, it was a reminder of, wow, this is so crazy, right? You're watching him hit 98, 99, even 100 on the radar gun going, this guy's not human. Nobody should be able to be this good of a hitter or this good of a pitcher.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Back with you on NewsWire, and this is the portion of the show where we like to expand our palate a little bit, get a little smarter, get to the legalese of everything involving gambling and sports betting, and just, again, how it all relates to, again, what's allowed, what's not, depending on the part of the country that you are looking at. Sam McQuillan, Legal Sports Report, rejoins us. He was with us, of course, earlier this week. Get Sam on Twitter, at Sam_McQuill. Sam, welcome back.
Thanks, Adam. Good to be back.
So a report on LegalSportsReport.com that you contributed to, and it's a big story. We led with it out of California, obviously, is that the Attorney General, Rob Bonta, has announced his decision to ban all DFS, daily fantasy sports contests in the state, and plans to do so before July 3rd. I guess, for one, how surprising is this to you? And two, because there's so much pushback in the belief that this should be up to the voters, not one singular member of office. Is this going to hold? Is this going to happen?
Yeah, well, first I just want to preface this with saying that he's expected to make this decision on July 3rd. Nothing official has actually happened yet, but you know how news goes. Once, sources come out and say something, everyone kind of gets behind it, and his office has given us no reason to believe that that won't be the case. So it is very much expected that on July 3rd, the Attorney General will come out with this opinion saying that all daily fantasy sports contests are basically illegal gambling and sports betting, which we know isn't allowed in California. Now, the surprise factor, California has had a very strong stance against sports betting for a long time. We saw in 2022 that the sports books spent a tremendous amount of money, I think over $220 million, to get sports betting legalized on the ballot. That failed tremendously, mainly because of a huge pushback from the state's tribes, which spent almost $200 million against that ballot proposition. So the tribes have exclusivity over sports betting in California, which basically means unless they say so, it won't get legalized. They have tremendous lobbying influence and tremendous power. And they have pretty much looked at daily fantasy sports. These are companies like Prize Picks and Underdog Fantasy, which offer these pick'em style parlay contests, very similar to parlays where you put $10 to win 50 or something if you get 2 combinations right on a player prop. They've come out and said this is illegal gambling, which a lot of other states have done as well. The tribes see this as something that infringes on their rights. So it's no surprise that this is kind of what ended up happening because the tribes have so much power. But it is a little surprising, the timing of it. You know, we can go all the way back to 2015 when Kamala Harris was the Attorney General of the state. This issue was presented before her as well. Her office was tasked with reviewing whether or not these daily fantasy sports apps, even back then, you know, much less of what they are now, whether that was legal gambling. Her office didn't do anything about it. They kept reviewing it, never made a decision. Her predecessor after that didn't do anything about it. And Rob Bonta, who's now the Attorney General, has been reviewing this for about 2 years. So the timing, you know, why now? There was recently a bill that was that had been pushed in the legislature. It never got introduced, but it would have legalized daily fantasy sports and basically made protections for these companies like PrizePicks and Underdog, which really looked to California as their major market. This is, again, a state without sports betting. It's a huge state, so a lot of people go to, you know, other options there that are very similar to sports betting. That bill fell apart kind of at the last minute. It came right as the tribe sent a letter to the legislature and presumably used their lobbying influence to get this done. So yeah, we've been waiting on this opinion for a while, and all of a sudden it's happening at a time when the tribes are again in contact with the state, and apparently there's going to be some sort of deal worked between the tribes and the sports betting companies, which also don't like the DFS companies. They see them as competitors who basically don't have to follow the same rules they do. You know, they're in California, the sports betting companies are not. So they're apparently working on a deal that would legalize sports betting. So the timing of this kind of all makes sense when you look into what's going on behind the scenes with the other parties. Now, again, you know, sports betting is not going to be legal in California for some time. Even if they do get a deal, it couldn't be on the ballot till at least 2026, which means that it probably wouldn't get implemented until 2028. And it might not even be on the ballot until 2028 if they do get a deal done there. So this could create a vacuum where there's really no similar sports betting options available in California. You got to wonder if that means, you know, offshore sports books will do better business in the state, whether companies like Kalshi, which we'll talk about in a minute, will do more business in the state. You know, these adjacent sports betting models that haven't been cracked down on yet. But so far, it's not looking good for the fantasy sports companies that have tried really hard to stay in the state. July 3rd, we'll know more, but it's expected that they'll be out soon.
You mentioned Kalshi. Life's good there. A funding round of almost $200 million brings the valuation of the company up to $2 billion. And as we know, Kalshi at this point in time is a business that is mostly sports driven. So where do we stand in Kalshi's attempts to take over the world?
It's a great question. I mean, Kalshi has been around since 2018, offering these event contract trading prediction markets where you can wager on things like the weather, whether or not Dave Portnoy is going to give a 9.0 on his next pizza review spot, you know, and then the election, which is where they really made headlines. You know, election betting is technically illegal under U.S. law, but there was a lot of court cases with the Commodities and Futures Trading Commission that led to them being allowed to take money on the election. It was huge headlines. Basically, the way they got around that is by saying, you know, you're not betting on the election, you're buying a contract on the likelihood of something happening. They try to coin it more as a stock market. So, you know, they were able to do that with the election and had tremendous success. And I guess they kind of figured, if we can do that with the election and call it not betting, why don't we do it with sports? And now that's what we've seen over the past 6 months. They've invested in the sports business. It's absolutely booming. It's no coincidence that, you know, just yesterday they announced a new funding round from some major venture capital firms on Wall Street to raise $185 million for the business. But even more importantly, the headline here is it values Kalshi at $2 billion now, which is it's a very big number, obviously, and much higher than it was for the company, you know, just a couple of months ago. So you got to look at what's happened since then. They've gone from about 100 markets on any given day to, I think, now up to 1,500. They want to have 4,500 by the end of the year. The CEO, when asked about it, has said, obviously, sports are the big one. You know, if you look at the most traded markets on their platform now, 50 of the top 51 most traded markets of all time are all sports. The only other one in there is the presidential election, which was the most traded market, but every other market is like the play-in game, and it's all NBA betting. So they've just rapidly expanded this business. It's gone largely unchecked because they say they're not gambling. They're not subject to state laws. So if you're in a state like California, you can technically bet on something, but, you know, Kalshi is not going to call it betting. Meanwhile, everyone has urged the CFTC to do something. They said they were going to have a roundtable that would address this topic and kind of figure out everything. States have been complaining. States have filed lawsuits against this. The incoming CFTC nominee is actually a board member of Kalshi. The president's son is a special advisor to Kalshi. So it's seen that the new administration would be very favorable to allowing this kind of thing to exist. Meanwhile, the sports books, the tribes are saying this is illegal gambling and they're not paying taxes, they're not paying fees. But in doing that, they've been able to obviously make a lot of money that's attracted a lot of money from Wall Street. And they're only booming. And it seems like, this really only started this huge boom when they started doing sports prediction markets.
Sam, Florida's been a dream state when it comes to legalized sports betting across slot machines, raffles, drawings, table games, DFS. Again, obviously online sports betting. A recent complaint, though, a lawsuit wants it done away with. What's the likelihood?
Yeah, this lawsuit, I would say probably might be thrown out on procedural grounds. That this is bigger than kind of just a constitutional question here. Florida has the sports betting monopoly with Hard Rock. Groups are saying that it was done unconstitutionally by not allowing the voters to do it and, deal with the state instead. So a lot of money at stake in Florida, but I would say this is probably not going to get overturned. It could be in court for a while, which would muddy the market even more.
Sam McQuillan from Legal Sports Report on Twitter at Sam_McQuill. Sam, always enjoy when you chat and join us here on NewsWire. We'll talk again soon. As we know, it's just we enter every year and it's, is this the Ravens' time? Is this Lamar Jackson's turn? Can they get past the Chiefs and all of these other, stalwarts of the AFC? But it's always really about Kansas City when we're talking Baltimore.
This potentially, Adam, as I send it back to you, potentially is a game changer in that you get a very talented quarter at a discount price.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Oklahoma City now becomes one of 4 NBA teams ever, one of 3 NBA champs ever to win at least 84 total regular season and postseason games.
It's just the beginning, Ben, and you just look at a team with, these guys at such a young age, and, Chet's got a team option, Ismail Dieng has a team option, Jalen Williams team option, Keyshawn Wallace team option. Hey, Ben, they're all coming back.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
We are seeing unbelievable temperature surges over the past couple of days. So I wanted to ask you this question to let the people know, how do we account for that in our handicapping? 2 good pitchers on the mound, but you look at a place like Wrigley Field, let's just say, 20-mile-an-hour winds blowing out, 90-plus degree temperatures. Is it almost like you say to yourself, you just have to fade the environment and not worry about the pitches, because if we're hitting fly balls, they're going yard?
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
It was the first time, I think, in Dodgers history that the ballpark was full in the first inning. Everybody was there to see Shohei Ohtani throw his first pitch as a Dodger, and I had mixed emotions about this for a few reasons. Number one, it was a reminder of, wow, this is so crazy, right? You're watching him hit 98, 99, even 100 on the radar gun going, this guy's not human. Nobody should be able to be this good of a hitter or this good of a pitcher.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Back with Danny Burke from Odd Shopper and Stochastic on Twitter at Danny Burke and the number 5. Kind enough to join us here on NewsWire. Getting to some Major League Baseball action, a more robust slate today. All under the lights, all evening games after day-long baseball yesterday. I don't know. I mean, it's the summertime, Danny. I think we need day-long baseball as part of every day. It doesn't have to be every game like yesterday, but can't the commissioner's office, the schedule makers, do a little bit of something about this here?
It's kind of strange, right, to have all those day games happening on Thursday as opposed to Friday, which in the summertime is essentially like a pseudo 3-day weekend for a lot of people. And it gives people in their companies, right, to have an excuse to go to the game. And I mean, at least like here in Chicago at Wrigley Field, they'll have the Friday 1:20 Central Time start time. So at least the Cubs try to implement it when they're at home. But yeah, it's strange to me that they don't have that frequently on Fridays.
How should we read this Twins game against the Tigers? Of course, today's start of new series across Major League Baseball. It's an interesting one here tonight with Detroit. It's a team that I don't know. I don't know how you look at it. Obviously, it's a team that's maybe playing over its head a little bit. 20 games over 500. Leads, obviously, the American League Central by a landslide, 11.5 in front of the third-place Twins. But this is a Twins team that's kind of frisky, kind of pesky, shouldn't be counted out necessarily.
No, definitely not. And you're right. I mean, Detroit, as great as they've been and as stellar of a pitching rotation as they have present, I still kind of think they're playing a little bit over their head right now. And look, it's not to say they can't make a long run, but at some point I think they'll kind of hit a drought. Now, I am not hoping that it's today, because the play that I'm targeting here, Adam, is going to be the total going over 8.5. Now, like you said, it's a little wonky because we're not quite sure who's going to be on there in terms of the pitchers for both. Well, we know that we're going to get Gibson Long, it looks like, but he's only gotten you one start and you don't have much of a sample size. And it's not been great from the small sample size that we have. And then on the other side with David Festa, it looks like it might be him, but very well could be someone else. And if it is Festa, I mean, that really backs up the case, in my opinion, for this going over 8.5 runs. I mean, both of these offenses since the start of June, Adam, have really been lighting it up. Detroit 5th in weighted runs created plus against righties, and then Minnesota's 3rd at about 119 weighted runs created plus. They both have seen that incremental improvement from the start of the season, to which they've been fine, but June especially, they've picked it up. And that's going to be the trend for a lot of teams, right? I mean, you're getting into the summer months, a little bit more familiarity. Bats are getting hotter. The weather's getting hotter, and it's going to carry further. So I see this 8.5 with some uncertainties on the bump from both sides, really. And I think that's a pretty good look here, assuming both of these teams' bats can keep it up against righties especially. So, yeah, I like the over 8.5 in this spot.
In this AL Central, you essentially, again, have Detroit leading every team by at least 10 games. Cleveland just inside the number at 9.5. So we can look at some futures odds within that division. Again, the Tigers, with this massive lead, are massive favorites. Latest odds on FanDuel have them at minus 1,800, just a little bit different from what you see on your screen there, whereas the Guardians at 17-1, Twins 28-1 to win that division. You know, I'm not saying you should back Detroit at minus 1,800 simply because the number is what it is. But if you believe in anybody else here, should we be looking at make-miss playoffs, team total wins, that type of thing? Or is this just a division right now you'd rather stay away from?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'd rather stay away from it. It's just such an infuriating division because you thought there would at least be some competition toward the top. And like a team like Minnesota, for example, I mean, they still have a lot of weapons, a solid rotation, but that's a squad that's continued to shoot themselves in the foot regardless of the personnel they put out there. So they're just a team that drives you nuts over the past couple of years. And then obviously this season as well. And the Guardians have been a sneaky competitive bunch, but clearly they don't have it put together this year. And I don't think they're really going to put up much of a fight in the latter half. And a team that's been extremely underwhelming, especially after what we saw last year heading into this season, is the Kansas City Royals, who I still think has enough weaponry with their arms to compete on any given day. It's just their offense hasn't synced up with that pitching. So that's what's been such a perplexing thing to see, and really disappointing is the lack of wins from this Kansas City Royals team. And maybe that's a squad who can turn things around in the second half. Now, do I think that they're going to do enough to make the playoffs? No, probably not. But I think more so on that game-to-game basis, this Kansas City team can eventually start picking it up. And again, not going to make a run to go against the Tigers, but being a really good chance of getting that second position in the AL Central. It's not like you get anything for that, but I think they could end up being the second best team when it's all said and done by the end of this season.
You mentioned going over in that Detroit game. I like the over 8 in this Cubs-Astros game. And I know that we've seen the Astros involved in some low-scoring games of late, high-scoring games, meanwhile, between the Cubs and the Cardinals. But this is an instance where, for one, we have a true pick'em in Houston, minus money on both sides. And also, whether it's, Cade Horton or Brandon Walter, limited sample sizes for both these guys. I don't trust either, despite the low 4 ERAs for both. I think we get runs.
I'm on the same side with you here, Adam, and I didn't take the over, but I would certainly lean toward that direction if I was going with the total in this spot. Because you're right. I mean, it is a limited sample size, especially on the side of Brandon Walter, but I am taking a bit more of a risk, and I'm fading my Cubs and actually backing Walter, hoping that those numbers do stay true to a certain extent. I mean, his 252 xFIP is promising despite, again, like you said, limited sample size, only 4 starts. But he's walking less than 1 batter per 9 innings in these 4 starts, over 9.5 Ks per 9 innings pitch. We'll see what he can do now against a really prolific offense in the Cubs, but relatively speaking, like the last week or so, this Cubs offense has dwindled a bit. Now, we know they have the capabilities any game to just explode, but I do think going on the road still after a 4-game series against the Cardinals where a lot of disappointing things happened, and they did do a 180 the last 2 games, but I think now going against this Houston team that just swept the Phillies, really hot right now, this young pitcher, Walter, who could be a stud, I think it looks pretty solid for them right here. And Cade Horton, he's got a 416 xFIP, not bad numbers, good high ground ball rate that's pretty high, but his left on base percentage is a bit concerning, and he hasn't really faced any prolific offense this season. So I think this is going to be a tough test for him, and I actually like the Astros in this spot at that minus 110 price. But again, I do think we will see plenty of runs in this game like you alluded to.
We've only got about 30 seconds. How about your favorite play on the slate?
Well, it's got to be now your team. I like the Red Sox, and it seems gross to take him in this spot, especially with the pitching situation. I was considering the over, but ultimately ended up backing Bayo on this Red Sox team. I think they're due for a win today, my man.
If only it worked that way. This team can't score since trading away Denver. Again, get Danny on Twitter at Danny Burke, the number 5. He's from Odds Copper and Stochastic. Danny, thanks so much. Enjoy the weekend. As we know, it's just we enter every year and it's, is this the Ravens' time? Is this Lamar Jackson's turn? Can they get past the Chiefs and all of these other, stalwarts of the AFC? But it's always really about Kansas City when we're talking Baltimore.
This potentially, Adam, as I send it back to you, potentially is a game changer in that you get a very talented quarter at a discount price.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Oklahoma City now becomes one of 4 NBA teams ever, one of 3 NBA champs ever to win at least 84 total regular season and postseason games.
It's just the beginning, Ben, and you just look at a team with, these guys at such a young age, and, Chet's got a team option, Dieng has a team option, Jalen Williams team option, Keyshawn Wallace team option. Hey, man, they're all coming back.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
We are seeing unbelievable temperature surges over the past couple days. So I wanted to ask you this question to let the people know, how do we account for that in our handicapping? 2 good pitchers on the mound, but you look at a place like Wrigley Field, let's just say, 20-mile-an-hour winds blowing out, 90-plus degree temperatures. Is it almost like you say to yourself, you just have to fade the environment and not worry about the pitchers, because if we're hitting fly balls, they're going yard?
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
It was the first time, I think, in Dodgers history that the ballpark was full in the first inning. Everybody was there to see Shohei Ohtani throw his first pitch as a Dodger, and I had mixed emotions about this for a few reasons. Number one, it was a reminder of, wow, this is so crazy, right? You're watching him hit 98, 99, even 100 on the radar gun going, this guy's not human. Nobody should be able to be this good of a hitter and this good of a pitcher.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
We had a lot of great guests with us today. Most recently, Danny Burke. Before that, of course, Brandon Anderson, Sam McQuillan, Joe Madden, exploring really a lot across the world of sports in this 60-minute program. We thank you for joining us on NewsWire all week long. Again, Craig Mish will be back with us next week. Frank, Luke, these guys behind the scenes making the show possible. It is time for our last licks of the week. So look, this first one, I'm going to need to know more. Adam Silver, commissioner of the NBA, says they're going to use AI, artificial intelligence, to look into why Achilles tears increased this season. You had 3 significant ones during the postseason. Stars, superstars of the league, Damian Lillard, Tyrese Halliburton, Jason Tatum, all go down with Achilles injuries during the postseason. We will not see them in all likelihood all of next year. It's something we've talked about in a recurring manner throughout the shows this week. You know, why the increase, what a calf strains have to do in increasing the likelihood of Achilles injuries. There is a clear correlation between the two. You know, I can see that without a medical background. People have, you know, hypothesized what is the link to players who wear high tops versus low tops. There are a lot of different things. So I guess Adam Silver thinking, why not let the robots get involved? Maybe I need to get with the times. Maybe I am a slow adapter to all things AI, not up with it as people are today, certainly at the level that they are today. But I don't know. What's wrong with a good old-fashioned doctor exploring this, and medical teams and medical departments of organizations looking into the data and the correlations of all of these things, more so than, I don't know, typing into Chat GPT, hey, just wondering, why do you suppose there was an increase in Achilles injuries in the NBA this year? I kind of wish I had done that search right before the show just to see what it would have popped out, to see what kind of info that Adam Silver is looking at right now. This is a curious one. Going to need to hear more from the NBA commish about the findings from this, and if we can make the trend go backwards, obviously that would be ideal for NBA fans all across the country. So that is one thing. As we continue on, staying in the NBA, love this. If anyone missed it, recently drafted Derek Queen, who of course was at the center of a lot of conversation, not so much because of Queen, but because of the trade made between his now Pelicans and the Atlanta Hawks. The whole, what are the Pelicans doing in theoretically giving away prize picks of their future as soon as next year in that deal, just to move up 10 spots to get Derek Queen. Maybe it's because he is so professionally motivated. One of the first things Derek Queen did after getting drafted was he updated his LinkedIn profile. Look, LinkedIn works with AI quite a bit as well. I guess a tie between those two stories. But Derek Queen, he wanted to let the people know, you know, he I'm happy to share I'm starting a new position as a professional basketball player at the New Orleans Pelicans. Even tagged the organization. Can't wait to touch down New Orleans and meet the fans. Look, this guy is I'm not dumping on him. He is clearly just mature beyond his years, and I have nothing but respect for the professionalism that he usually these messages are reserved for Twitter, for Blue Sky, for a short video on TikTok, on Instagram, wherever, YouTube short, I don't know, LinkedIn. I didn't know. I mean, I know like people like me use LinkedIn. I didn't know that someone like Derek Queen obviously was a user on LinkedIn, but I applaud him for making the career announcement and updating the. We'll see if he goes to another team after New Orleans at some point in time, gets traded, free agent signing, whatever. I want to know if he continues to update the experience, the resume there on LinkedIn with each move. Baseball making moves, at least the World Baseball Classic. Bobby Witt, one of the latest to join Team USA in 2026, and this team is loading up. Witt is obviously one of the best players in Major League Baseball. Aaron Judge has joined the team, a favorite to win Most Valuable Player there of the Yankees. Obviously one of the most, impressive players in all of baseball. And Paul Skeens, favorite to win Cy Young in the National League, the reigning Rookie of the Year in the National League. Guy's only been playing pro baseball for about a year, and he is a phenom. As you know, if you follow MLB, he has joined the team as well. So Team USA trying to bring home a title at the World Baseball Classic coming up. Later today on SportsGrid, there is a lot coming your way from Pharrell, Coast to Coast, Front Office Sports Today, Game Time Decisions, In-Game Live Game Day, Sports Rage, later on tonight, of course, with the one and only Gabe Morency. There is a ton on the way here on the grid, so you want to go nowhere. Again, Adam Kaufman in for Craig Mish all week. It has been a pleasure. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you haven't, I guess the good news is Craig will be back with you next week. Everyone have a happy 4th if I don't talk to you beforehand. Thanks again